Hi there, and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we'll be learning quadratic equations, okay? And under quadratic equations, we'll be learning about solving quadratic equations from fractions. Now, as the lesson progresses, anything you don't understand, be sure to get across to your tutor, who would be more than happy to help. And yes, let's jump right into the lesson. So quadratic equations. Now quadratic equations, one of my personal favorites. And this time around we'll be learning to solve quadratic equations from fractions. And what this is, we basically have, at this point you should have done basic standard equations from fractions, okay? Where uh, 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 basically we have it here actually. So we have an equation like this, okay, and we have x over 4 minus x plus 1 over 3 equals 1 over 2. So this is an equation in fraction form, and we're looking to solve this equation, and we'll just go ahead. We have a common denominator, okay, and in this case we have proper denominator would be 12, okay, and then we can go ahead and say 12 divided by 4 will give you 3 multiplied by x, 3x, okay, and bring down minus, and then 12 divided by 3 will give us 4 multiplied by x plus 1, we have 4x plus 1, and then we have 12 equals 12 divided by 2, that's 6, 6 times 1 gives you 6. So basically just the same way when you're adding typical fractions, the same way you find the LCM first, then you divide the LCM by the denominator, and then you multiply the numerator. You multiply the result by the numerator. Now, once you've done that, you basically just you can do away with the line, you can do away with the LCM there, and you just pick out exactly what you have on the top there. Okay, so you have 3x minus 4x plus 1 equals 6. So you can actually throw away the 12, throw away the line. Okay, they've played their role. You don't need those anymore. All right. So when you break you have an equation with equation in fraction form. Once you break it down like this, you can do away with the line, do away with the LCM, just pick out what you have there on the top, and then you just go ahead and solve this, and you should end up with x equals 2. Okay, so basically that's how you solve typical equations from fractions. Now, we do have some equations from fractions that often result in quadratic equations. Now, here's a good example, and these equations usually have a variable as the denominator. Okay, anytime you see a variable as the denominator, you know you're probably going for a question where an equation with a fraction where you'd probably end up with a quadratic equation. But let's solve this. So you have 3 over a equals a plus 2, or basically a plus 2 over 1. So that a plus 2 is like a whole number. And then basically you draw your line. The denominator, one denominator you have here is a, so the LCM in this case would be a. Okay, and then you have a divided by a, 1, multiplied by 3 gives you 3, equals a divided by 1. Remember what you have there is a plus 2 over 1. So you have a divided by 1 multiplied by a plus 2. So a divided by 1 is a, multiplied by a plus 2. What you have is you have a plus 2. Okay, and now, like I said, you can do away with the a on the bottom there, you can do away with the line, and you just extract exactly what you have on the top there. And you have 3 equals a plus 2. Okay, and then you just simplify this out. You have 3 equals a squared plus 2a. You know, the second you see that squared, you know exactly where we're going with this. So you have a squared plus 2a, and then you bring these all together. You have bring 3 over to the right, or bring a basically just move your numbers around. You should have a squared plus 2a minus 3 equals 0. So a quadratic equation. Now, if we solve this quadratic equation by method of factorization, we would end up with a plus 3a minus 1 equals 0. And then we go ahead and work this, that a equals minus 3 and a equals 1. And that's it. Very simple stuff. That's all we're doing in this lesson. Okay, so quadratic equations from fractions, they usually occur when you have a variable as a denominator. Okay, and in this case we have a situation where we had to multiply. First we found the LCM. The LCM in this case is just a, because a is the only denominator here, and then we say a divided by a is 1, multiplied by 3, you have 3, A divided, well, when you have A on the other end, A plus 2 over 1, because A plus 2 is like a whole number there. It's not a fraction. So you write it as A plus 2 over 1. And you say A plus 2 A divided by 1 is A multiplied by A plus 2. So you have A plus 2. And once you simplify all of that out, you end up with your answers A equals minus 3. A equals 1. Now let's go ahead and do a few examples. Okay, so I have example 1. In example 1, we have solve for p if p plus 3 equals 6 over p plus 4. Okay, so we have a variable p plus 4. There's a p there in the denominator. So a very good chance that we end up with a quadratic equation here. But let's go ahead and solve this. So you have p plus 3 equals 6 over p plus 4. And basically you draw your line there. Your one denominator you have there is p plus 4. So p plus 3 is a whole number, so that's basically p plus 3 over 1. So we have p plus 4 divided by 1 is p plus 4 times p plus 3. And what you have is you have p plus 4, p plus 3. Okay, and then or basically p plus 3, p plus 4 is pretty much the same thing. And then you have equals, and you have p plus 4 divided by p plus 4 will give you 1, and then you multiply 1 by the numerator there, and you have 6. Okay, so p plus 3 multiplying p plus 4 equals 6. We just draw that out, we expand, we simplify, and we should have, when we solve our quadratic equations there, we should end up with p plus 6, p plus 1 equals 0. And what we have in the end is we have p equals minus 6 and p equals minus 1. Simple, straightforward. Okay, it gets a bit more complicated than this, all right? But let's go ahead and solve a few more examples. So example 2. Now, so for d if 2 over d minus 2 equals 3d over 4d plus 12. Now, this is a very interesting one, okay? But pretty much the same principle, all right? So the same process. And we draw a line. We need to find the LCM, okay? So we have two denominators here. And then we have d minus 2, 4d plus 12. And normally when you work in fractions, you find the LCM, or quite simply, you just multiply the two denominators. Okay, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this case, because we really can't find an LCM. All right, so we just multiply the two denominators, and what we have d minus 2 multiplied by 4d plus 12. Okay, now d minus 2 multiplied by 4d plus 12 is our LCM. Okay, we call it our LCM. We divide that by d minus 2. So d minus 2 multiplying 4d plus 12. The d minus 2's will cancel. You're left with 4d plus 12. And then you multiply that by 2. So what you have is you have 2 times 4d plus 12. Or another way you can actually go ahead and do this, you can just cross multiply actually. Okay, so if you cross multiply, you get the same result. But this is generally the cleanest way to solve this type of questions. And then the next one you have you bring your equal sign, okay, and then for 4d plus 12, you basically go 4d minus 2 multiplied 4d by plus 12 divided by 4d plus 12. You're left with d minus 2, so you multiply that by 3d, and what you have is you have 3d times d minus 2. Now you just take out what you have there in the numerator and you go ahead and simplify. Okay, you simplify that out. The 3d there, you have 3d squared minus 6d. On the left, you have 8d plus 24. You bring it all together, and you should have the quadratic equation 3d squared minus 14d minus 24 equals 0. You go ahead and solve that by method of factorization, and you should have 3d plus 4d minus 6 equals 0. And what you have in the end is you have x equals minus 4 over 3. Or sorry, d equals minus 4 over 3 and d equals 6. Simple, straightforward. I think we have one final example. Okay, so example 3, and we have solve for x if 2 over x minus 1 minus 3 over x minus 4 equals 4. Same process, same principle. Okay, so we have that. We'll find our LCM. We just multiply the two denominators there to give you our LCM. Okay, well, that's a very long line. Okay, So we just multiply the two denominators there to give you the LCM. And what we have is we have x minus 1, x minus 4. Okay. And the bit x minus 1, x minus 4, for the first bit, we divide, um, we have 2 times x minus 4. Okay. And then we bring our minus sign. And then we have x minus 1, x minus 4 divided by x minus 4. You have x minus 1. So you have 3 times x minus 1 equals 4. Basically you have 4, that's a whole number there, so you have 4 over 1. So you have x minus 1, x minus 4 divided by 1. It's x minus 1, x minus 4 multiplied by 4 gives you 4 x minus 1, x minus 4. And then you basically just bring out exactly what you have on the top there, and you go ahead and expand. So you have 2 multiplying x minus 4 minus 3 multiplying x minus 1 equals 4x minus 1, x minus 4. You have 2x minus 8 minus 3x minus 3 times minus 1 gives you plus 3 equals 4 times x squared minus 4x minus x plus 4. And when you simplify that, you have minus x minus 5 equals 4x squared minus 20x plus 16. And then you just go ahead, you have 4x squared minus 19x plus 21. You solve that by method of factorization. You have 4x minus 7 and x minus 3 equals 0. And what you have in the end is you have x equals 7 over 4 and x equals 3. And that would bring us to the end of this very simple, pretty straightforward. Basically, you just need to learn the process. And once you've mastered the process, you can pretty much solve any equation from fraction, any quadratic equation that originates from a fraction. And yes, you can go ahead now and attempt questions on the worksheet. Bye for now.